I don't really know. So the next story I have to talk about is the storm story. So what happened was it was about 3 o'clock. I had just woken up from my like nap, and I wasn't feeling great because I was really disappointed with myself for not getting that doc start actually. And I wasn't feeling well in the first place, and I was like, oh, whatever. But got over that. I don't know. It was just something where I was like, I knew I could do it, and I didn't. And but I went from not knowing how to wakeboard to being a solid wakeboarder. Like I can. I think I'm above average. Haven't really seen too many people wakeboard. I only really watch my dad wakeboard, and he's definitely still better than me. But I can do a lot of the same tricks. I guess. I my first time wakeboarding was Monday or Tuesday or whatever it was. But like in the dock start is something that is super hard to do because you're sitting on a dock. I guess I should explain a dock start. Dock start is where you sit on the end of a dock. You hold a piece of rope of the line, then you get the boat like switched out, like kind of held straight or whatever, and then as the boat starts, you're supposed to throw the rope, and then you lean back and hold the board up, and then you kind of get going. So it's tough, but it's doable, and I'm quite confident that the next time I try it, I'm gonna get it. That's how like, cause when I went to sleep, I was just thinking about like, well, what do I need to do? Because my dad was like, make sure you don't jump forward. I'm like, I'm not jumping forward. What are you talking about? But then I realized like, I guess I am, because when I needed to wait on throwing the rope, and I needed to lean back as I threw the rope, because I would kind of like, I knew I needed to lean back, but I would throw it, and then I would kind of like brace myself and leaning forward, and I just need to kind of let myself be taken off the dock. But anyway, I know I get that, and I've come to conclusion with, I don't know, that was weird. I don't know, it's like if you haven't wakeboarded before, I guess it's like, it sounds like a stupid problem, but just because I had progressed so much, I was doing so great, and that's the one thing I didn't miss. Anyway, so the storm, so 3 o'clock or whatever, they came and said like, you need to move your boat. There's gonna be like 25-mile-per-hour winds, and our boat was docked at this kind of like dock you just kind of play on, you put tie tubes up to or whatever, just a regular dock, not like a boat dock. You could tie your boat up there, but it wasn't like where you park your boat for the night. And so we moved our my dad was at the bar, I mentioned that before, with my uncle because it was his birthday. My dad wasn't just like at the bar, just because that's what he does all the time. But so my mom had to move the boat because I was still sleeping, or whatever, or wasn't feeling all that well. I don't really remember. And so moved the boat over. They like tied it down, and I was like, oh, kind of. I woke up, walked outside. Oh, let's see what's going on. And then I saw the boat was over there because I'd heard, like, I was kind of like in half sleep. I kind of heard the situation. And so I was like, oh, I'll walk down, help them tie up the boat, because I'd taken this boater education course, thing. I'm like, oh, I'd probably help tying up the boat. I've seen my dad do it a lot. Let's see what I can do, because it was my cousin Clay, my sister, my mom doing that, helping that out there. And I was like about to walk down, then I see that girl down there, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm not dealing with that. No thanks. So I kind of walked back, and I'm like, oh, I was kind of talking to them like, you guys got it, because I was like, if I needed to be, if they were like, no, we have no idea what to do, I would have walked down there, but like they seem to have it under control, so I'm like, I'm not dealing with that, I guess. So I walk around, kind of, and then they get that all figured. They walk up, and then like the storm, it was kind of like that stormy feeling where it was super, like thunderstorm clouds, and it had kind of like stale air. And it was like, yeah, a storm's definitely coming, but how bad is it gonna be? Probably, it's probably a nice storm to watch, but not that bad. And so, but we didn't have the cover, because the cover was in the car my dad took to the bar, because it was like 4 miles up the road. It was this little town that had like the post office, the store, and the bar are all in one little area, and that was pretty much it of any sort of town, I guess there was. And so my cousin's like, oh, should we go up there, to tell them? And they're like, yeah, go or whatever. And so they're so we hop, me, my sister, and my cousin hop in the car. We drive down there. We go in, and I was like, because we had walked like into the bar before just to check it out. I bought some like aloe vera because I got sunburned or whatever. and so we, but before there wasn't anyone there, and then we kind of went in there. Someone was smoking on the steps or whatever, and so he kind of moved, I guess. And then I was about to like walk in. I'm like, I don't really want to walk in there. I definitely don't look 21. I don't really know what the deal is with that. So my cousin walked in there. He's 18, but he is like 6'4". So I don't think anyone's gonna really question Idaho, like if he's not, like asking to be served or something like that. And so he walks in there, tells them the situation. They like pay. They grab a hat because it was like it's a storm, but how bad is it gonna be? Boats are meant to get wet. No big deal really. So they do that. We drive back. They come back. They hook the trailer up and they put the trailer down because it's like this last day. Let's just pull the boat out of the water so it doesn't have to be in the storm. It'll be easier or whatever. So they do that. But then it's kind of getting like bad and windy. And we're like, oh, we'll go down and see if we can help them because it seemed like they got it. And my dad's like, oh yeah, if you guys will just tie the boat up and we won't even get in the boat because it was kind of a little wavy. If you guys can just fend off on the side here, that would be helpful. It's like, okay, sure, no problem. We're just kind of waiting around. But then the storm kind of getting worse and worse, and they'd gotten like the boat untied. And we're like, oh, let's just go help them. My dad said like what they should have done is just put the cover on the boat and just kind of let it survive the storm, and it would have been fine or whatever. And the boat turned out fine, like it was no big deal. But that would have been the best move. But we didn't really know how bad it was. We were like, oh, this is probably the worst of it. Let's just get it out now, because we won't have to come back down here again. But the storm started to get worse and worse, and we were already kind of like down there, and so we had unclipped the boat and we were kind of pulling it around. We were getting it all figured out, and then we we're like, oh, this is probably the worst, but then it just keep getting worse and worse. And we like during the brunt of the storm, like the biggest part, we were down like trying to get the boat in the water, and so it was just kind of, we must have looked crazy. Must have been like a really entertaining, I bet. And so we're working on that. We're like, so we had like multiple ski ropes from each end, and it was tons of, the waves were massive on like the break wall thing that's supposed to keep the boat safe. That was like almost like breaking through. Pieces were going everywhere. Like the docks were getting like whipped up and down. There were like 2-foot swells at the shore, in a place that usually gets like a maybe inch wave. White caps everywhere. You couldn't even see anything out there because there was so much like fog. It was like hurricane status. So we're pulling that out there, and let's like, okay, we're already this far. If we have to go back the other way, it's still like it's manageable, I guess but then it keeps getting worse and worse, lightning. So we pull it along and we get it to because my dad had pulled the trailer down and just left the car on, and it was like, is the car gonna be okay? Like if that rolls in the water, that would suck. And kind of like the muffler was kind of in the water and it was kind of like spewing out, so it's like it wasn't going to do anything because like the exhaust was coming out, but it was like it just kind of looked like kind of bad. And so then we pull it, we swing it around. I'm running from like dock to dock to try to like push it off to make sure it doesn't hit, and like swing around, and then everyone's kind of like almost falling in the water. And my uncle had like, this is his 50th birthday. He had like a bad back for the week too, and like I think he's actually going to the doctor tomorrow or something like that. But he was, trying to get that all figured out. Everyone's trying to, figure out what they need to do. We're swinging it around. We get it all figured. We get it pulled down, and then we're trying to get it twisted the other way. But it was like we had to, spin it around because people didn't understand the whole plan because there was lots of rain, wind, and no one's really sure. No one's dealt with anything like this. And so then we spin it around and we push out one end and then we pull back another end so we get it spun around, and then my dad gets in there, tries to set it up, and we're trying to like pull it in, and I'm hanging on for dear life. Like there's gusts of winds coming from every single direction, and I'm holding on to like this light pole and holding on to the boat because I know if I let go of the boat, like the boat's gonna crash and get seriously damaged, which would suck because I was like, I'm having a great time wakeboarding. We can wakeboard here. I don't really want this to happen, and obviously that would, my dad would be super mad because we share this boat with my other set of cousins who weren't there because they're on my dad's side of the family. And so I'm hanging on. Me and my cousin Clay are hanging on. Like we were one more gust of wind, we couldn't hang on because we were so close to falling in. If we fall in, like I wasn't worried about falling in because at that point, it was just so cold and the water felt, so warm in comparison. but it's just, when you fall in, you have no leverage to pull the boat back. So then we kind of like let it go, let it kind of float in, and my dad kind of pulls it in, and so we get it in there, and then we crank it up. I ended up just jumping in the water, even though there's lightning. I was like, I wasn't really thinking about lightning. I probably should have thought about that a little more. But I jump in. It was at like the shore, and then I hold on to the boat as it's in the trailer, getting tied onto the trailer, and then my dad gets in, kind of pulls it out. I'm kind of in the back of the boat, kind of pushing it in, make sure it gets in place and doesn't fall out, and then we get it out of there. We tie it up, and everyone's like, wow, this seems to work out well. But the only, like, there were two problems from that whole storm, that from the boat and the trailer, like the side, right by like the fender thing, it's like there's the wheels, and it kind of goes up into a step, and then between that step and the boat there has to be like some sort of cushion thing, and that thing like kind of got warped or whatever, broke off, but like it's fixable. My dad's fixing it right now. And then the boat got like a little chip, which is again fixable, not that big of a deal. It's about like finger sized, on the bottom. They broke that off, which is really amazing. That's all that happened out of that whole storm, because it was it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. So then we kind of like get all that, we get the cover back on. It's like, whoa, that was crazy. We're soaked, and at the end of it, we're like, wow, that was actually pretty awesome. That's a story to tell. That's something to remember. That was like that was probably the craziest thing I've ever done, really. It's awesome. It was kind of like redeeming, because I didn't get the dock start. I was like, but I had a great time doing that. It was kind of one of those things where I was like, it was a weird connection to make, but I made that connection, and it made me feel better, or whatever. Then we look over and we see that the dock has completely, the other dock where we had parked the boat and moved the boat to this like parking place area, that dock had completely broken off because it just couldn't handle. It was like a new dock too. It couldn't handle like the waves or whatever. And well, the middle piece had popped off, and then that dock popped, like the dock completely like broke, and so that was really crazy. And then there were two trees that fell on, barely missed this house, big massive trees, probably a couple hundred years old. Like just absolute destruction. There was a huge log with it was like the craziest storm they'd seen like forever. It was just crazy. And then me and my cousin, my sister, we pulled some debris back in. We got in our little kayak thing, like an inflatable kayak, and like paddled out there and picked up two pieces, or like a big plank that was floating. It was floating vertically, and then this massive log we pulled in, that was super heavy and was underneath the dock that had bucked off. And we picked up different pieces of debris or whatever, and there's a picture of my sister. We like, as we swam out there, we put my sister on like the dock and we swam away, and so it looked like she's been like deserted out there, because the dock is completely broken off and is like sideways, but it's still anchored down the front, so it's not gonna like go away. And so it was just absolutely insane. Then afterward, it was just like, wow, it's kind of peaceful out here, but it was crazy, because if we had arrived, like if we had gone like a week later, like it would have been terrible. And that was just funny to think, like, that's the boat I was doing, I was attempting dock starts off, and now it's just destroyed. It was just destroyed. So it was insane. There were some pictures on my Twitter page if you want to go look at those, probably from 2 days ago. Scroll down. I mean, maybe if you just look at my picture section, they should be the most recent ones. But it was crazy, awesome trip, awesome time. One other thing to note, my second cousin, who just pretty much my cousin because he's like cousin age, she goes to she's in college, and her boyfriend is like her boyfriend's sister is like a big person in like the dance world, and was like on the cover of Dance magazine or something like that. So I just have to throw that in there because that was another interesting tidbit. She's on like Wikipedia and stuff, so it's kind of crazy. And so yeah, it was just crazy. There I die, kind of stupid way to die, but oh well. Used up all that gameplay. Wow, I talked for 54 minutes straight. I am insane.